So welcome to the October meeting of the Southampton Village Planning Commission. Tonight we're going to talk about potential new landscaping and tree regulations. We've had several hearings where people have talked about it, and we met ourselves and came up with a draft. So maybe I'll go through it and then we can talk about it and see if we want to move forward. So there was a committee formed of local residents who gave us some examples of regulations for landscaping and removal of trees from some other towns, Mudden Town, and I think Roslyn Heights. So we took that and tried to apply it to conditions in the village. And particularly given the workload of our building department, we thought it would be helpful to come up with something that maybe was a little more straightforward and easier to administer, since this is ultimately going to some extent fall on them. So I'm going to read through it and then we'll talk about it and whatever changes we want to make. So it starts out with the theory that any application for a building permit involving exterior site work, including a demolition permit, must be accompanied by, number one, a plan of the existing landscape by a licensed landscape designer. I'm sure that's not the right term.
Right.
We'll talk about that, and you'll tell us perhaps what the right term is. And then a plan of the proposed new landscape, but also by a licensed landscape professional. The new landscape plan must indicate how drainage is retained on site. 3, if the proposed application of the building to the building department shows removal of any trees of 10-inch caliper or more, or disturbs more than 1/3 of the existing landscape, it is subject to ARB review. And so if you file a landscape plan and it doesn't show any trees of that size being removed, or not more than 1/3 of the landscape's to disturb, it just is filed and is there, but you don't have to go through any further process. Again, trying to make it as simple, straightforward as possible. And then 4, the intent of the regulation is to give authority to the ARB to review landscape plans with particular but not exclusive attention to the following goals. A, screening of neighborhood properties. I should note that many of these are the criteria they actually use already, so we're just making, I think, more formal what they do. B, the character of the street and the neighborhood should be retained. C, environmental considerations, which I think for this commission has become an increasing concern. D, any new this is somewhat controversial, any new hedges on the street should be no more than 8 foot high for small lots, or on streets narrower than 45 feet and 10 feet for larger lots on wider streets. And then E, particular attention shall be given to landscape destruction within the non-buildable front, rear, and side yard setback zones. And 5, there shall be no, this is sort of what the penalty is, there shall be no disturbance of landscape or clear cutting other than normal maintenance and or removal of trees with more than 10-inch caliper for 6 months before applying for a permit or during the review process. I guess there was some concern that, we would try to regulate based on building permit, that builders would therefore destroy the landscape before they applied. So this gives a 6-month collar on it. I don't think anyone's going to hold the site for 6 months just to tear down trees, honestly. And then non-compliance will result in a 2-year moratorium on review of any permits for that lot. I think the idea there is that we have not found that monetary penalties have much impact here. Mm-hmm. If you're building a $5 million house, the fact you're fined $10,000 for removing trees just becomes part of the course of doing business. So there's an attempt to do something that would really have impact. Because I think if you can't build for 2 years, that's going to be a pretty heavy penalty to anybody who, a builder who's buying a lot is going to want to realize economic return on it as soon as possible. So that's been what we proposed. Should we go through it and talk about any comments?
Yeah, I want to go back. I want to go to the hedges, because I brought up this point, is that the problem with these hedges they put up, they run the hedges all the way to the end of the property line. Mm-hmm. Now, example, I have a situation with my property that they run it. In order to get out the driveway, you have to back all the way out in the street before you can see anything. I mean, there's no visual street. And I think we should make a ruling that those hedges cannot, or fences, be any higher than 3 feet, so that if you're backing out with a car, you can look over it, see what's coming down the street, and I think it should be at least the length of a car, say 15 feet in from the property line.
On the property line or street edge?
I think you're talking street edge, really.
From the street edge. You know, so when you're backing up, you can
Right.
look down the street.
Right.
Right now, I mean, and you have the same problem in your
Yeah,
neighborhood.
yeah.
And
There is in the zoning book currently for street intersections, if you live
Right.
on the
yeah,
corner.
Yeah,
no,
corner you have
we're
that.
talking
Right.
about in
I
the
know you're
middle.
talking about driveways, but
Right.
is there anything in that we could just adopt into this
It's a good
driveway
idea.
section?
That's a good
Possibly
idea.
added into it,
Good
because
idea.
years ago, we didn't have this problem, because most people had open lawns and they weren't worried about putting hedges
Right.
and screening. And now this has become a problem, becoming a blind spot.
Right.
Now, if you're pulling out with your car and somebody's riding a bicycle, you'll never see them.
Yeah, that's what happened to me.
Right.
It's like I saw the car, I didn't see the bike.
Yeah.
Sort of came within this close of hitting them.
And that's something that I think we
Yeah.
should address.
Okay. I think the idea of maybe taking the regulations for corners and applying it is
Exactly.
a really good idea.
Yep.
I mean, the less new language we have to write, the better it's going
One
to
of
be.
the other things, too, is I think the code says you're allowed to put a 4-foot high fence in the front yard and along a certain, that's too high because you can't see over that 4 foot when you're sitting in your car. It's got to be dropped down to 3 foot so you can actually, when you're backing, for a certain distance back.
Right.
From the road back.
Right.
3 foot high so you can at least see what's coming down the street.
Yeah. I also think there's wording in there with driveway gates.
I think the driveway gates, the problem with them, I'm looking on Hill Street, they should be recessed into the property so when the guy pulls in, he's off the street, not
Right,
hanging out in the
right.
middle of the street.
Right.
So really far enough in to allow the vehicle to be off the street. Right, right.
And I think between the current corners and the current driveway gates, we may be able to come up with something
Right.
similar to complement
Now,
both of
there's
those.
one other thing that's been brought up to me through the fire department. Now, when I was on the ARB board, we were told all these gates, if the automatic fire alarm goes off, those gates open up automatically. They're not doing it.
It's supposed to, there's a electrical connection to the fire alarm in the house?
Yes, in other words, if the fire department gets there and the gates are closed and they're crash-proof gates, then
Right.
you got to spend time ripping the gates apart trying
Right,
to get into place.
Huh. So there's a way to, I guess that makes sense. There's a way to connect it. Probably now, since everything's on app or electronically.
Now,
anyway, it's
electronic,
probably
you could tie it in with
basic.
the alarm system, so when
Right.
the fire alarm goes off, the gates open up automatically, and the
Right.
vehicles can go right in, especially with all the chief's investigations they get.
Right, right. Huh. Interesting.
Yep. Well,
So first of all, what do you think is the right term, or who's the person who should be fired?
licensed landscape architect?
Architect, yeah, I was going to say that.
And then I like everything except for limiting the height of hedges.
Right.
I don't agree with that.
So it sounds like if we, just picking up on what I was being talked about here, if we said the hedge has to be set back from the streets, you can see out, that would be sort of the way to start to address
I
it.
agree with Ed. I don't mind the height of the hedge. The problem I have is trying to get out of my driveway and look down the street
So,
and see if there's my car
what
coming.
you're really saying is it's too close to the street.
Yes.
If you pulled the hedge back away from the street, you're less concerned
You'll be able
about
to
the
see
height.
down the street. Right now, they go right to the street line.
Right,
And
right.
if you're backing out of your driveway, you cannot see anybody. And if you have your hedge the same way, you basically have a blind alley that you're backing out and you can't see
Right.
anybody.
Right, so it'd have to be the length of a car or a truck,
Yes,
right,
yes,
at least.
yeah.
But I don't think it has to go all the way across the property. Like
No,
you can
I'm
do-
just talking in the driveway area.
do the sight line at the driveway
Yeah.
at that intersection,
Right,
whatever
right.
that.
Yeah, which I think on the corner, you're right, there is on the corner, there's a certain amount you have to set back, so that people coming to the
due
corner.
to Big John getting hit by a motorcycle many
Really?
years ago. Yeah, that's how that law.
Well, it's a good one, so
Yes.
that requires you at the corner to pull your landscaping back.
Mm-hmm.
So we could have a similar rule for our driveways.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay.
And I don't think that should be such a hardship for anybody, because it's more of a safety issue.
Right, right, right. And you think there's a similar rule now for gates?
I think driveway gates have to
Okay.
be something
Okay.
plus or minus 20 feet off of the edge of pavement,
Huh. Okay.
which is the length of a car.
Right, right. So we would use the same one for the rear
I'll
building.
have to check. We got the first set of electric gates down at the president of Dunkin' Donuts, and I don't think he's 20 feet off the road.
Well, if they were in before that was passed, of course, it's grandfathered.
There was Billy Cordy had a house there, and they tore it down, they built a new one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, the building department's got so much to do. They can't
Right.
cover everything and catch all this stuff.
Right, right,
And the object is to try to make it as simple as
right,
possible for
right,
them.
right,
Right.
right.
And that's, I think, where we piggyback on the, on whatever that verbiage is about the driveway gates. Like, it's
Right.
just,
Right.
it's right there.
Because I
Be it
can remember the
10 feet.
Architecture Review Board approves those gates.
Right. Yeah,
And that
they
that
see-
should be brought to
yeah.
their attention, that all these gates have to be a
Right.
certain distance.
Yep, yep. They have actually an amazing amount of gates on their agenda every week.
Yeah. So it starts looking like something like that.
Right, right,
Well,
10 feet either
Right.
side,
right.
10 feet step back.
Because what you see now a lot is the hedge comes all the way to the gate.
Yep.
Right at the street.
Yep.
And then this becomes sort of a real barrier.
Exactly.
Right, right.
But I don't agree with holding this hedge.
Right. You're saying you have to pull the hedge back where the driveway is so that people can see, and also so people on the street, even particularly people walking by,
Yep.
can see that someone's there.
Yeah.
Okay?
You know, just,
Right, right. So, do we think 1/3 of the existing, I mean, that was sort of what Studio AB had come up with, the consultant we were using in the planning.
Yeah, I
They
think,
thought that was a reasonable, if 2/3 of the property was being kept, that would be, if you went beyond that, that would be what would tip the balance to having to go through a review process.
yeah, I
The
think
theory
would
that
be fine.
anyone building a new house is going to change something, right? There's no
Yeah,
way.
they
just-
always change.
Well, there's nothing else, because when you change the footprint, you're going to have to change the landscaping.
but it seems logical you should be able to do a minor addition to a house
Right, without going
without
through the steps.
disturbing,
Yeah.
Right.
without disturbing
Right.
more than 1/3 of the
Right,
property.
right. I think what we're trying to do here is that not put a burden on just the ordinary person, adding a room or doing a minor change, putting on a porch or something like that, and make them go through this whole
I'd like to
process.
see the application.
Right, right. Well, most applications end up at the ARB anyway,
Yes.
right? I mean, the
Well,
vast majority of people.
I just remember when I was in the ARB board, I asked them, listen, does anybody ever put a 1,200 square foot house in? They said, yes, pool houses.
Right, right, exactly.
By the way, if you look at Sag Harbor's review, 200 square feet is all they allow for a pool house in Sag Harbor now.
Right, right.
On
They
any
really-
lot size?
Any lot size,
Well,
200
they don't
square.
have a lot of big lots.
Right.
That's always been the issue, is they're a little different because their lots are generally so small,
Right,
and they have very few, they don't have anything like the estate section.
exactly.
They don't have a neighborhood that has those very large lots.
Right.
Yeah.
For 200 feet.
You have to go through that, I got those
Right.
papers for you.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, no, our proposal is to say, look, you can do the pool house you want,
Yeah.
but whatever you do is going to subtract from your
From the GFA off the main house.
GFA
So
off
you
the
can do
main
anything
house.
you want.
Right. So you're going to have to decide where you want it. You want a pool house of 500 feet, fine, and you're going to lose it off the main house. So that's your decision to make. Other than, exempting the detached garage up to a certain size.
Well, one of the problems with the garages we have is some of these garages have been turned into living space.
I know.
And how do you detect what's been turned into living space?
Right.
And
Very hard.
it's very hard to do,
Yeah.
especially if they leave the garage doors on.
Right, which is generally what people do.
Yes.
And often they'll put an entrance like on the sides. You can't
Yes.
tell from the
Well,
street.
they even build it with a side entrance,
Right.
which is normally garages, do have a side entrance to get in and out.
Right. I think, there's a limit to what
You can
we
do.
as a planning commission are not really a regulatory body.
Yeah.
So we can do whatever the law can do, but, I think there's a broader issue of how the building department either can do this or gets enough resources to do it. You were about to say something else? Okay, any other comment? So if we make those changes, is this something that we think we're prepared to move forward with?
Well, I think your sightlines for your driveway.
Right. So
That
the
can be
changes that I have are, I'll say landscape architect,
Yep.
talk about the hedge would have to pull back at the driveway, just like it does now at like in the existing regulations, it does at the corners. And then the same thing with the gates. They would have to extent whether we'll have to make sure that they are controlled to the extent they're not, that they would have to also pull back.
Yeah.
So you would have what you showed here, which is if this were the driveway out, the whole piece, both gates and hedge would pull back and allow you to exit.
I know the gates are in the code currently.
Yeah, I know there's stuff about gates in the code.
For those,
Yeah.
to clear the traffic
Right,
before you
right.
stop at the...
The other thing too is to also put that thing is when they have an automatic alarm, those gates open up automatically
Right,
for
yeah,
the chiefs coming in.
yeah.
Yep. I believe that's in there also, whether it's actually happening or not.
Right.
I don't think it's happening because I hear the chiefs on a scanner complain about they can't get access because the gates are closed.
Right.
You know, what a lot of towns do is there's an automatic override.
Okay.
So what they do in a lot of towns is when you put the gate in, there's what they call a fire key.
Yeah.
So there's a key that the fire department has that they can go and that will immediately open the gate.
Okay.
That's what a
Some
lot of
of
towns
the
do.
commercial buildings now, they have the lock boxes on the building.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Right. So they can always get the gates open because there's a key that they control that you have to put in with your
Okay.
gate.
Yeah, it doesn't make it
Right.
either way. Either they open
Right.
automatically or they have a
Right.
key to get in.
Right.
It's just, it's something that when I was on a board, there was, because I brought this up, oh yes, the gates are open automatically, and I understand that that's
Right.
not happening.
Right. Also, people probably are not very happy with the idea that someone has access, so no one ever thinks they're the
Well,
house that's going to have a
I've heard
fire.
the chiefs complain that they go to these
Yeah.
automatic alarms and the guys have been cooking, taking showers
Right.
and everything else, and, oh, what's that noise? We didn't know any noise.
Right. Well, every new house is sprinklered anyway, right? This
Not
point?
sprinkled, alarmed.
Alarmed, it's just when you get to the third floor, they get sprinkled.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's interesting? In some states now, every new house has to be
Sprinkled.
sprinklered. Yeah. We're pretty behind, actually. Should make a big difference.
As a plumber, I've seen some situations. I was one where the heat went off and the place froze.
Right. Well, that is the danger with
It definitely
sprinklers.
put no
Right.
chance of fire in that place.
Right. Definitely is a
There
problem with
was tons of
sprinklers.
water.
Right. Okay.
And then I would like to just
Yeah.
delete
Yeah.
the
Yep.
4D.
Right. Okay. All right. So I'll write this up. We'll get it around and then forward it to the trustees. I think next meeting I know the mayor's out, but maybe the meeting after that.
Okay. Yeah. Paul knows about it, but in Florida, St. Lucie County has a rule and regulation about removing historic trees and stuff like that. And right near my house, about a mile and a half, Walgreens wanted to build a drugstore. And this huge historic tree was there, right? So what's Walgreens do? Chops the tree down. Of course, the county gets all upset, and the fine was $800. So they paid the fine, built the store.
Right. Well, that's why I think, I agree, that's why I think fines are ultimately not very effective. And certainly in a village like ours, where people are spending, millions of dollars on a house, it's just hard to make a
The other
fine that's going to
problem
be
we
really
have
effective.
is not only they're cutting the trees down on their property, they're cutting the village trees
Right,
down. You go
right,
down Corrigan
right.
Street,
Yeah.
and they took about 4 or 5 trees, maybe
Right.
6 trees down in
Yeah.
front of the houses.
Right. That they did pass a law about.
Okay.
So that will not happen in the future. But what is still happening is people are basically
Clear cutting.
There's just a house on Little Plains where
I saw that house.
Right, you saw they just tore everything out. They created just a dirt lot. It was very heavily landscaped before. And so suddenly the house in back
It's exposed.
is totally exposed. Yeah.
And even the neighbors on
Yeah,
either side.
yeah.
There's no screening, nothing.
Right. So that's, I think, what this hopefully will address, that people can't do that. So, okay. Comments, thoughts? Okay. All right, terrific. So next month, hopefully, the village attorney will have a draft that we're both going to send around. This is of the list of zoning changes we talked about. We'll both send around, I think we'll post on the village website so that members of the public see it before our next meeting. So, hopefully start to move that. All right, so nothing else? Thank you. That's the planning commission meeting for October.